Ciao, welcome. Today, different video. You ask, I answer. When I was in Dubai, I prompt you guys on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram to send some questions, to submit some questions. And I received a lot of them, and I had to organize them. But now I have a little time. I took a few days off here in Salalah, Oman, and I'm gonna answer all your questions. First of all, let me apologize for the sunglasses, but if I don't wear the sunglasses, I will be blind because there is a light directly on this cover, this plastic cover, and it does blind me. Some of the questions that you guys submit, they were already answered in previous Ask Me Anything Q&A videos. I think I already published 4 or 5 videos. In the description of those videos, there is the list of the questions and the timestamp. So probably for those guys, I will send you a link to the timestamp of your questions, and you can go and watch those videos. So we don't talk always about the same stuff. But I also noticed that many people here are new and they would like to know exactly who I am and what I'm doing. For example, Mattia Carminati, I think is probably someone even from my region in Italy. He asked, how old are you? How many years have you been traveling by bicycle, and why do you do it? Also Ferruccio, long-time followers here on YouTube and also on Facebook. He asks a similar question. Are you just roaming the world, or is there a place you consider the finish line of your long journey? So briefly, I'm Davide Travelli, and Travelli is my real last name. I didn't make up. I'm now 47 years old. I started traveling by bicycle when I was 36, so it's over 10 years. I also stopped for a year and a bit for the pandemic, but we come up to almost 10 years traveling. I crossed the Americas, I crossed Africa, then I crossed Europe. Now I'm in the Middle East, so I'm going towards Asia. The goal of my journey, this endless journey, is to cross all the continents in a meaningful way. I'm not trying to cross all the countries, although I've crossed a big number of countries so far. So Oman is country number 70, but I'm not looking for to cross all the countries and territories. It was never a goal of mine. For me, it's to cross the world and see as much as I can of the continents that I cross. Obviously, it's impossible to see everything, but I want to cross the continents in a meaningful way. Obviously, for example, the Americas, I cross most of the countries, but I haven't been to Brazil, for example. When I was in Africa, you either choose the east route or the west route. So I went east and I missed the west part, but I think I saw a lot of Africa because I crossed from Cape Town to Cairo. For me, it was a meaningful way to cross Africa. Europe also, I haven't crossed all the countries, but I've been to the northmost point, I've been to the southmost point, I went to the westmost point, I've been in Eastern Europe, but obviously I haven't been to all the countries. For example, I miss also some big countries. For example, I haven't been in Romania, and I haven't been in Hungary. Now I know many of you are curious how the current situation in the Middle East affected my journey. When I was in Turkey, my plan was to go to Central Asia, possibly from Iran. Then last year, Iran was attacked by Israel and the US. So I decided to go to Iraq and enter the Arabic Peninsula and buy some time. My thought back then was that things would have settled, and once I was done with Oman, go back to UAE, and from UAE take a ferry to Iran and continue into Central Asia. Now things got much worse than they were 1 year ago, obviously, and the whole region is somewhat unstable. Oman is very tranquil, hasn't been affected as much. There has been only one drone hitting an oil depot here in Salalah. It was the day I arrived, and so I will be for another month or so into Oman, cycling around Oman. I will probably not be able to go back to UAE because it's easier to get flights from Oman. And yeah, we'll see what's the situation in a month or so. I also left a few things in UAE that there were mostly winter gear that I will need in Central Asia. And if I'm not able to recover this little bag, it will be very costly for me, because there is probably like a couple of things, but it's worth maybe like about 200 euro at least. And yeah, so I'm trying to see if I can get it shipped to Muscat. But my host in Dubai also left the country, so that's that. Ferruccio also asked another couple of questions. Let's see, do you envision yourself holding down a regular job anytime in the future? About the future, at some point this chapter will finish and I will have to do something else. Yeah, I will probably maybe organize adventure for people that would like to have a guide and they would like to have everything organized. Let's see, I'm not sure, but that could be one thing that I will do in the future. And do you tend to dwell over negative comments, or do you just forget about them? Yeah, the healthy thing is to forget about them, but obviously they do sometimes affect me. And sometimes they are right. So in a way, yeah, I need to listen to them. In another way, they are also right because they didn't understand what they saw, but it was my problem not documenting well enough what happened and open up the fact that people misunderstood what they saw. And then there are the third type of negative comments that are people that are really dumb. I think, I don't know what's happening in the world, but a lot of people are leading towards stupidity in a way that nobody could, with a little bit of common sense, can comprehend. And I give you an example. A while ago, when I was on the Sufi Trail, I published a video where I show it in the YouTube video that I stopped at a fountain where there was like a spring, and there is the runoff of the spring where maybe animals drink water, but definitely not humans. And I put my feet into the fountain, and I published this a reel on Instagram and Facebook, and I got loads of negative comments on Facebook saying that I was a cunt, that my mother was a whore, and how can I be so inconsiderate. But like, I would never had thought that you have to explain grown-up men how a fountain works, how a spring works. Nobody in their right mind drink the water from the runoff. People drink from the fountain, from the spring. Some animals, they might drink it there, but no human is gonna drink that water. So it's like when you go to the river, you go into the river, you go into a lake. Of course, you get naked and you go inside. You take off your shoes, your socks, and you jump into the river, into the sea. What's different from a fountain? There are animals, but if I put my feet there, it doesn't affect the animals. Also, that water is already contaminated. There are frogs shitting and peeing in this water. There is cows that they have shit all over, and they might pee inside also. So my feet do not affect the quality of the water. Then you try to explain, and some people, they realize, but yeah. Recently, yesterday, for example, I had to delete one reel on Instagram because it was going viral on, especially in Iraq, and I had to explain exactly what happened, and I explained in the video that this guy was gonna go to prison because he did, and everybody was commenting, he just wanted to talk to you, and you were aggressive. No, I was aggressive after I was being harassed for half an hour. I was followed with a big vehicle. He tried to block us the road. Plus, I was cycling with a guy from Iraq, and he told me, do not stop whatsoever, because this guy has been aggressive. So in this case, to avoid me losing my liver, commenting to all these people, having to explain 1 time, 2 times, 100 times, I prefer to delete. And this was the second time I had to delete one reel also on Instagram. It was about one time that I throw a rock to a dog. I didn't even hit the dog, but the animalists, they are crazy. They don't want to understand the situation. They said the dog was not threatening you. Again, they were not there. 2 minutes later, the same dog with two other, they were shepherd dogs. They were about to attack me, and the shepherd saved the day. Luckily, he was there, because in Turkey, these big shepherd dogs, they killed people. It's not the first time. Also, a bike traveler a few years ago died because of those dogs. So even then, because I didn't want to bother with all the animalists explaining to me that the doggy was not threatening, I should have never picked up the rock, that I should not travel if I am not able to deal with dogs. It's like, it's enough, and I delete it. And yeah, so most time I just publish my content, and if then there are some negative comments, I don't care. But at some point, like, if the comment is negative, I understand. But if it's dumb, then I feel like I need to explain myself, and I lose loads of time. G-Dog Days, interested in visa. How do you research getting transit visa or having to get full visa, or just Google it? And also, do you arrange cash in remote places when crossing the border? Take euros and change them, or cash machines? Yeah, visas. Usually you learn about visas as you go, especially in Central Asia. Sometimes things change. There are some WhatsApp group where you can also ask. The Italian government has an app for people traveling, where every country has detailed information of the requirements for entering the country, the requirements from visa. So I check there. Also, I ask maybe some other travelers that, I don't know, I'm in Turkey and I'm about to enter Iraq, and I know from reading some WhatsApp group that this guy or that guy was recently in Iraq, and I message these people in the WhatsApp group and ask about the cash. It depends. If you are in Europe, you can withdraw money everywhere. If you are in the Americas, also you withdraw at the ATM pretty freely. You have to check which bank in the country that you are doesn't charge any commissions. For example, when you are in Morocco, the only ATM that doesn't charge you any fee, it's the Morocco Post. So you go at the post office and you withdraw there, and you kind of try to have enough money from one post office to the other. You more or less know how much you spend after you've been there a week. In certain countries, for example, when you are in Africa, you need to carry with you a certain amount of dollars in cash, because when you pay visa in most countries, you have to pay cash. So that as well, if you are on the eastern route, you can do a quick math of how much US dollar you need, and either you arrange them to take them with you when you leave South Africa or Cairo, or vice versa. There are some countries that they have ATM that where you can withdraw dollars, but it's not all the countries. But there are usually, if you cross a whole continent, you arrive in some cities where there are ATMs in US dollars. For example, I don't know, I think in Kenya, in Nairobi, you find ATM in US dollars. And if you are in Central Asia, there is a couple of places, I think, where you can withdraw US dollars in cash, so you can pay visas and other expenses. Usually, little shop restaurants, they unlikely accept euros or dollars, so you need to have the local currency, and you usually exchange it at the border, or you can withdraw money at the ATM. It's good to have like a couple of cards, if it's possible, to have a Visa and a MasterCard or a Maestro, and so you're covered. If for some days the MasterCard Maestro circuit doesn't work, you have the Visa, and vice versa. You can download some apps. I use usually to withdraw cash when I'm around. I usually use Revolut because you have up to 200 euro per month, I think. You can withdraw without any commission, but you always have to be careful that the bank you're withdrawing from doesn't charge you any commission. And yeah, there are several apps that you can download like Revolut, and you open a bank account very quickly. And yeah, and basically you only pay if they have to deliver a physical card to you. I think it's about 10 euro. I have a few of these apps. I think the best is Revolut. I also have N26, but yeah, every now and then they threaten me to close my account if I don't disclose where the source of my money is, and I have only 1 euro in their account. And I was like, yeah, just close it. I rarely use it. And I have another one, I think it's called Wise. Yeah, there are 2, 3. And yeah, I really suggest you to have a couple of those banking apps on top of your normal bank account. Piotr, do you think about what your life might look like in 10 years from now? How have these 10 years on the road changed you? I don't think they changed me much. I know lately I've been a bit harsh, maybe a little tired in the videos, and people told me I changed a little. Yeah, I was a bit drained after Turkey. Iran really drained me, and I think I'm ready for a change of region. Different culture. I really look forward to go to Central Asia and continue my journey. So yeah, that's that. My life in 10 years, I don't know. To be honest, I have a feeling that I will not survive this journey. I think probably something will happen during the journey. So I'm not really thinking too much ahead, to be honest. Cesco, buongiorno. After 10 years of traveling, do you miss home, or do you want to continue traveling the world? Yeah, I still enjoy being on the road and meeting new people, seeing new places. Now, as I said, I'm ready for a change of region, a change of scenery, but I still really like it. And the day that I will feel I don't want to do it anymore, I will just pack up my things and just go home. Radu, very similar. Is it still worth after a decade of traveling alone? 4 years traveling myself. So yeah, it's still, for me, it's still worth traveling alone after all these years. I think it's a balance. It'd be nice to have someone to share the road, the good and the bad. But I think as a solo traveler, you experience the world more, you learn more, you interact with the culture as a single person. Already, if you are 2-3 people, then it's a group interacting with the surrounding environment. Already, for example, when I was in Iraq, that I traveled with Ahmed, it was really good because I was really drained. And from Nasiriyah to Kuwait, basically, I traveled with Ahmed, and he was doing all the talking, most of the interaction, and I could just relax and not getting drained all day long by the interaction with so many people, so many problems, the police checkpoints, people harassing, and having to explain so many things to so many people. So in a way, yeah, if you travel with someone else, you spend less energy, but it's also like there are less interaction with the people you meet. And then, are you happy? Are you happy by heart? I don't know if everybody's happy by heart, but yeah, it's bike traveling still. It's something that I'm still passionate, and I find it very fulfilling still. And as I said many times, the day that I will stop to be happy on the road, to be fulfilled, I will just do something else. For me, it's not a dogma, it's not a religion. Are you considering taking a break from touring in the near future, or even in settling down? Probably it's not gonna be long now, because I only have Central Asia and Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, then basically I cover the whole world. So that's probably when my endless journey will actually end. And I don't think it will take that long at the moment. Maybe like a couple of years, I would say. and then I'll do something else. If you would settle down one day, what country would it be? As I said many times, it's probably going to be Spain. Now there is a segment that is about money, budget, financing the journey. I talked about it in, I think, in a long and articulate way in the first Q&A video. So most of the people that are interested in this topic, they should go and watch that video. There is also a playlist called Interviews, and there you find two separate videos, two interviews to two different couples that they travel for many years by bicycle in South America without money. And also there I think you can get some ideas if you wanna how to finance, how to travel with no money. But also let's address some of these questions regardless. Piotr, what is your average monthly cost of living while traveling? How do you finance your journey? I hope it's not a too personal question. A part of the question, I would say go back and watch the first video. It will give you some idea. How much do I spend monthly? It really depends. It really varies from country to country, but you can be very frugal if you travel by bicycle. You can eat the cheapest food. You can eat pasta, rice, beans cans. So it's very cheap. But then, if you want, you can also spend a lot of money. If you want to try all the craft beers, if you want to try all the good restaurants, and you want to go to this museum and the other museum, and you want to see this park and the other park, and you want to do this tourist activity and the other activity, then it gets really expensive. But if you are frugal and humble, you can spend next to nothing, as I said. And as there are examples on my YouTube channel, there are so many people that they travel with no money. And what does it mean, travel with no money? Of course you need some money, but you can make some craft, you can sell postcards, you can make videos on YouTube, and if you're lucky and you don't suck at storytelling, you can actually make some money. For me, it's my channel is very small. I don't make that much money, but there are always many people that are willing to send some donation, and they keep me on the road. When I sell the postcards, there are many people that buy the postcards, and yeah, so I don't make money, but it keeps me on the road, and I'm very blessed and grateful for all the people that take time to send a little contribution, or even just a thank you or a note. It really makes my day, and it keeps me on the road. Piotr also asked, what advice would you give to someone who wants to quit their job at 50 and set off on a multi-year cycling journey? I can give you the advice that Alastair Humphreys gave me when I reached out to him before starting this journey, when I was overwhelmed, and the people on the Facebook group said that I was gonna die in Alaska, and that I was behind a disaster waiting to happen. And he told me, don't listen to those assholes on the Facebook groups. And if you don't have experience of bike touring and camping, just take your bike, buy a cheap tent, and go in the nearest mountain near your house, and with your bicycle, and just spend the weekend there. My suggestion, if you already have experience, just hit the road. If you don't have an experience, just buy a cheap bike, buy some cheap camping gear. And nowadays also at Decathlon they sell camping gear that is not too expensive, and it's pretty good. And just go to a lake or a mountain near your home, and try it out, and then or even just try for a month. And once you're on the road for a month or for 10 years, nothing really changes much. Do you have an idea of what's your yearly budget and the budget for bike maintenance? I don't have an idea exactly of how much I spent in a year, because it might vary. I try to set aside some money, even though I travel with no money, but I still try to set aside some money for if something happens and then I need to change something on my bicycle when I'm on the road, so I need to go to a bike shop, and obviously you have to pay them. For the normal maintenance, except some things, for example, Paul Schwalbe sends me the tires or the sealant, these things, and it's a help. And then usually the drivetrain I have to pay myself. At the moment, the bicycle is done. The drivetrain is completely gone, but I'm hanging in there, and hopefully by the time I'm done with the Middle East, I will have a new bicycle as a sponsorship. It's not very easy these days, but I'm still hoping something will come up. Silent World, please, if I want to make a 3-month bikepacking in Turkey, how much money the average I need, you think, with all the time sleeping in the tent, maybe 1 day a week in hotel? I also went in 2 hotels this summer when I was crossing Turkey, because I didn't find any host in Konya, and also when I was in Silopi before crossing into Iraq, I also needed to get a shower, wash my clothes. I was also had to receive a package from DHL and send one back. So my experience was that I think the one in Konya I paid about 20 euro. It was a bit expensive, but it was very close to Mevlana. It was very convenient. It was close to everything, shops, laundry. So, and I didn't really have much time. So I was like, okay, maybe I spend 5, 6, 7, 10 euro more, but it saves me like 3-4 hours of going around town. And then maybe you're far from the laundry, you're far from this, you're far from that. And then when I was in Silopi, I went to the teacher's hotel, and I think I paid 13 euro. So in certain areas of Turkey, especially the remote ones, you find this teacher's hotel, and that is probably cheap. You might spend between 10 and maximum 15 euros, I think. So consider that. You said once a week, so once a week, consider maybe 20 euro once a week. And then in Turkey, it depends what you eat. If you eat beans, the beans from A101, it was about 1 euro, and sometimes with the offers it was much less. But yeah, I was having that 2-3 times a day. So let's say, even if you're very frugal, you will spend like 3-4 euro. If you cook your own food, you cook your pasta, then it can be also cheaper. And then I don't remember, but a few times I had kebab, but it's getting expensive also in Turkey. Good thing in Turkey you don't pay for the water. There's fountains everywhere, and it's good water. And then also like Cokes, iced tea, iron is pretty good. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's much less than 1 euro. No, the Cokes in the cans in Turkey, they're probably like 70-80 cents. They're not as cheap as the Middle East, but yeah. Then it's up to you. Like if you had to eat meat and kebab every day, then yeah, you'll spend probably 10-15 euros for meals every day at least, because I think it was like 7-8 euro for a kebab, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember exactly very well. Another Davide, Italian. How do you choose your next destination? How much time do you spend preparing the map? Do you go home to work on the preparation and the study of the journey? No, I don't go home, but I do stop where I have the opportunity, even for weeks or even months. For example, the last time I stopped months was in Doha in Qatar. I stopped in Istanbul, but also when I was in Dubai, I think I stopped maybe 2 weeks. Now I'm also here in Salalah for a while, and hopefully even in Muscat I can chill there a little bit and prepare all my things. I don't do much planning. Most of the times I already pack everything in the morning, and I'm on the road, and I'm like, okay, where do I go next? So I'm not very good at planning, and I'm not very good at preparation. Sometimes just people send me some route from Instagram, and they're like, oh, if you're in Oman, why don't you do this route? Well, I'll check it out. Okay, let's go to this route. And yeah, but for me, for example, Ryan, the American guy that was with me in Istanbul, he really likes to spend time, and he also goes home. and he open up maps and he check out the dirt roads and he do extended planning, and that's something he likes to do. But for me, it's not really appealing, and I just like to go on commute and say, okay, from Salalah I go to Oman, plot out a route, and I decide either a dirt road or paved road, and I check what's the conditions, and then yeah, if it's nice, it's nice. Otherwise, if maybe I reroute when I'm on the road. Cosimo, can you tell how much it costs and how and when do you ask for visas? That's we talked about it. It depends. It depends on the country, really. Most of the countries, especially with an Italian passport, are visa on arrival. So you arrive at the border and they stamp you into the country. That's the visa. Sometimes it's visa on arrival, but you have to pay a fee. For example, in Africa, in East Africa, was mostly 50. The average was 50 euro. It was Malawi 75, I think, but I think now they reduced to 50. And then Ethiopia was a little bit more expensive. Sudan was $68. Middle East was a bit expensive. They were all online, and I could pay with credit card. But Iraq was, I can't remember, but I said it in the video, it was about 70 euro per month, something like this, no? Saudi was 75 euro for 90 days. Qatar was free. UAE was free, but you have to pay an exit tax. It was like, I don't know, 10, 15 euro to exit the country. And Oman is expensive. Oman already cost me 90 euro. It's 45 euro each 30 days. And because I might have to stay here a little bit longer because of the war situation, I might have to pay. This would have been the most I paid. If I pay another 45 euro, it's a disaster for my finances, to be honest. It's yeah, Oman, very nice country, but very terrible for my finances. Then the food is quite cheap. Simone also asked a similar question, but slightly different, so I want to answer. How do you gather the information for the borders, documents, and the local laws? He's Italian. The Italian people, they can download this app that is called William. How far ahead do you plan your stop for water? Do you carry multiple days worth? I would love to know your strategies throughout the Middle East especially. So it depends where you are in the Middle East, but usually if you are close to roads or mosques, you can get water pretty much everywhere. The quality of the water varies from country to country and from region to region. For example, in Oman, there are filters and coolers everywhere when you can get water that tastes pretty good and is also cold. But when I was in the desert, for example, and the water was terrible. The taste was terrible. So I ended up buying more water than I would like to. And it wasn't filtered. I have my UV light to sterilize the water. That's not a problem. But the taste was terrible. At some point, one day, I thought the water was really contaminated with something chemical, and it was not the chlorine taste. It was something else. So I had to throw away. Like I didn't taste it when I left the gas station, and I had to throw away 2, 4, 5 liters of water. So that day I also had to flag down some traffic, and even if it was Ramadan, I was like, can you give me some water? But usually when you are in a country a few days, you get a sense of where the water is and how often you can get water. So it's when you arrive in a country, you get the feel of it after a few days. And I try to carry the water for the whole day, or it depends. If I'm in places, especially in the Middle East, that I need maybe 10, 15 liters per day, I know, okay, I can carry 6, 7 liters, and then along the way I will be able to resupply today. So obviously I'm not gonna carry the whole day. And when I approach the end of the afternoon, I carry a little, I try to fill up all my bottles because at least for me, during the day, I'm always a little dehydrated, and at night I drink a lot. Some of the questions I translate from other languages, either Portuguese, Spanish or Italian, so that's why I'm not super fluent in reading some of the questions. But Cosimo asks, I've seen that you often sleep in a tent. How do you manage eventual dangerous situation you had? I don't remember if I had dangerous situation while camping. And yeah, I remember one time in Algeria, I packed my things in the middle of the night and I left for a few kilometers away, deeper in the bush. But it was also not a dangerous situation. I was not able to communicate with these people. I thought it was safer for me to pack up before maybe they changed their mind, that they would come back to someone to rob me in the middle of the night. So while camping, I don't want anybody to see where I am. So if someone see me where I am, I pack up my things and I go. Or if I'm in a situation where there's people everywhere and there's no way to hide somewhere, then I prefer to go to some people's house or to the leader of the tribe or the mukhtar of the village and ask permission to ask them to give me a safe place where I can pitch my tent, and then they say you can sleep there or you can go and camp there, or we have this room where you can sleep for the night and nobody will bother you. Domenico, ciao Davide, what do you use most to find a place to rest when you're using your tent? Couchsurfing or showers? Do you use any others? Which is your favorite and why? When I'm not camping, I usually reach out to potential hosts with the two platforms you mentioned, either warm showers or couchsurfing. Obviously, the priority goes to warm showers, but the community is much smaller. For example, here in Oman, there are maybe 4 hosts in the whole country, and they don't even live in the main cities, I think. But I can switch to couchsurfing when there's no host available on warm showers. Unfortunately, after the pandemic, couchsurfing is not as active as it used to be, but I always try to send requests even to people that maybe they haven't logged into the account, because you can see this person hasn't logged into the account for 5 years. But my experience is that these people still receive my requests for hospitality via email, and I can read the message. So somewhere in the message, I also write my contact number or my social media. And if they cannot log into their accounts because they forgot the passport, or because in certain countries or most countries, even to read and accept the request, Couchsurfing asks you to pay a little fee. So in order to make it easy for them to accept my request and not to waste their money, I put my contacts, and if they really want to host me, they can reach out either from WhatsApp or social media. There is also another one that I used that I think it's Be Welcome. It's in an emergency situation when warm showers, no result. I send maybe 500-600 requests on Couchsurfing, no result. Then as a last hope, I switched to Be Welcome. Alessandro, you got a Pinion? No, I have only the t-shirt. Hugo Ricardo, what tools and spare parts do you usually carry with you? And what's the worst incident you had? Yeah, I published a video with all my gear. Maybe I'll put it in the description and there you can see. But usually spare parts, I mostly carry some spokes, spare chain, spare braking pads, springs, 1 or 2 spare cables, and then that's it. And the worst failure I had was when I was on the Sufi Trail, that I broke the hub and I had to to push my bicycle for a few kilometers, for a few hours till the village, and from there I got a lift the day after to go to the city to get my wheel sorted. What do you put in the big handlebar bag, the dry bag? Yeah, also that one in my gear video you can see exactly what I have in there, but it's mostly clothes and camping equipment, where my quilt sleeping bag, my sleeping pad, and a few things that I need at night. How much weight are you carrying? Too much. Ignorance is a bliss. I don't even want to know, but it's a lot. Hello Davide, I see you're using dual-sided pedals. Which side of the pedals do you use most of the time? Flat side or clipless side? In percentage roughly. I use 99.99999% the clipless side and 0.000000001% the flat side. Is usually sometimes I use one flat side pedal on the downhills if it's really steep, if it's a bit dangerous, if there are some rocks moving around, so I unclip one pedal just to be sure. Rarely two, but it has to be a really rough and technical descent. Other than that, yeah, it's always clipless. How long lasts a front and rear tire with your setup, and what's your favorite brand and model so far? I've done a video about the tires that I used when I had a bike touring setup, and the tires that I use now. I still use the Nobinic. Now they are 2.8. I also use the 3 inches tires, but I don't think they make them anymore. And yeah, it's a tire that I really like. It's on a tubeless setup, and yeah, sometimes I wish I had a little softer compound, but I think it's a great balance between grip and durability. So I start to have problems with these tires, not before probably the 11,000 kilometers mark at the back, and maybe like a couple of more in the front. Even though I do front loading, so most of my weight is in the front, the back tire still wears out a little quicker than the front one, because obviously my weight is sitting all at the back. Francesco asked about front loading and why I don't put any bags on the back, and he also asked, is it not unstable descending? Actually, front loading is more stable. The more the weight is in the front, the better control, the better handling, and the better stable is the bicycle. Think about it. If you have more weight at the back, imagine you have a trailer. The trailer makes the bicycle very unstable because it's way back. But if it's in the front, it's much better. That's the main reason why I do front loading, to have better control and better handling, especially during when I'm off-road, because when you're off-road there is always something loose. It could be a little bit of sand, gravel, or some stone, and also when you descend. It's I think that's when the front loading gives you the best advantage. How long does a liter of fuel last you for cooking? Oh, you know, I try to keep track of it, but yeah, I have no idea, to be honest. But I would estimate between 20-30 meals, I don't know. Because when I start to track it, and then I forget some days, or I stop a few days here and there, and yeah, I always wanted to track it, but I never been able to. I'm the worst accountant ever. So 5 tips for a first bikepacking trip, total newbie. As I said earlier, maybe go to a mountain close to your home and you test 1 day, 2 days, and you see what you like, what you don't like. Maybe change how you pack your bicycle. It might work in theory, and then practically you realize that certain thing has to be packed in one bag instead of the other one. And it's very personal. What works for me wouldn't work for you, and there are no rules. It's most of the things about bike traveling, it's personal choice and personal habits. Well, some tips I could give you is like carry a microfiber cloth and clean and lube your chain every day. I wouldn't bring any food inside the tent. I wouldn't bring any of the bags that I have attached to my bicycle inside the tent. But I would keep everything clean in the tent. If you don't store food and you don't eat inside your tent, it's best because there's less scent and so less animals that are prone to maybe puncture your tent. Even just some type of ants. There are some ants that they will chew through your tent floor just if they smell something to eat, you know. So yeah, other than that, just do as you please and find your way, and don't listen to people that they preach on YouTube videos. Do it as it comes natural to you and as you please. Oh, Luca, how do you deal with flat tires? I ride my bike in the city 30 kilometers daily to work, and I could only fix it by putting one tire inside the other. How can you put one tire inside the other? I don't understand. My tire, like since I don't know, the last 70,000 kilometers, I'm running tubeless, so I don't have to deal with punctures. So I would suggest to also run tubeless. Obviously, if I get a flat tire, I know how to fix a flat. My suggestion is always to first remove the tube. Before touching the tire, finding the hole in the tube, mark it with a pen, and then find exactly the same spot in the tire, and then check, because sometimes there is something inside that is gonna puncture again the next tube. So that's an important thing, and I'm really surprised to see people on the road that they don't do this check. We are close to the end. Blandin, what was the best moment in your journey in 2025? 2025, last year. I think the best moment was when I was eating those bean bags in Turkey. That was pretty good, actually. When I was really tired and I was eating them at night, I was keeping a couple of bags on top of my handlebar, so they would get really hot during the day. And when I was stopping at night and I was opening this bag and it was still warm, it was so satisfying. I think those borlotti beans bags with the potatoes and bell peppers and tomatoes are the best thing. Yeah, definitely one of the best things of my 2025. Blandin also asked, what was the funniest thing you experienced in 2025? Yeah, being sexually harassed in Iraq. It made me a bit upset, but it was also pretty funny, I think. The last question is also from Blandin. What is the most original place you slept in 2025? It's not original. If you follow my journey, even back in 2019, it was a favorite of mine when I was in Turkey to sleep in cemetery, and it was pretty good. Even this year I slept in some good cemetery, and I can't remember the name of the town, but the one that had the gazebo, that was perfect because it saved me from the rain. It was so nice and peaceful, and I love sleeping at the cemetery. There was a toilet. There's always water at the cemetery. Even in France, I slept to various cemetery. Yeah, cemeteries are a great place to camp. Not sure anyone watched till the end this very long video, but if you did, congratulations. All right, we are done. Subscribe if you want to subscribe, like if you want to like, dislike if you want to dislike. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Ciao.